So this one's for the girlfriends and wives out there. Today we're going to talk about how to help your nice guy husband or partner become more masculine, be more of the man that you need. A surprisingly large number of my male clients are actually referrals from their partners. I find that their partners are the first to start doing research on nice guy syndrome and start to look into some of the problems they're having in their marriage. And they quickly discover that while they, as the wife, have things to work on, they can clearly see what their partner's doing that's undermining the relationship. Such is the nature of nice guy syndrome, it's very rare for the man to actually go searching for the problem first. He wants to avoid problems and any kind of acknowledgement that things might not be perfect. And as long as no one's getting dumped and the ride's pretty smooth, he's quite happy to keep going as it is. So it's up to the poor woman to take the masculine lead, to be the one with the balls to go and solve the problem, which is the main frustration she has in the first place. So I wanted to make this video for you guys to help you figure out what you can do at home to bring out that masculinity in your man and maybe save your marriage. It started okay, didn't it? And then it went downhill. So at the beginning, either he was just really nice and sweet and you've been longing for a guy to be like that, someone who treats you well and with respect and compassion. And or he demonstrated masculine traits at the start. He was spontaneous, risk-taking, disagreeable when he needed to be masculine. And so you kind of got sold on the story, like, this is a really great guy. I'm going to enjoy being with him for a long time. There's no way that this could possibly go badly in the near future. But shortly after you kind of made the relationship permanent or official, it started sliding downhill. The honesty disappeared, the courage went away. You started to get sick of how nice and agreeable he was all the time. Started to feel like he's caretaking and fixing. You have to take the lead all the time, and you started to get sick of it. But it was such a slow trickle that you probably got all the way into a marriage and having kids before it really started to hurt you enough to want to do something about it, before you really got to the crisis point. So either the nice guy stuff got old and you got sick of it, and you just see it now as a lack of spine and a lack of honesty, or there was that stuff at the start and you're wondering, hey, where's that guy gone? Where's the great guy I was dating? Who's this kind of spineless wimp that's replaced him? So regardless of how you got here, let's have a look at this problem and what you can do about it. First and foremost, this will take some serious work. This is not a quick fix. If that's what you're looking for, go look elsewhere, okay? Because I'm not going to provide that to you. If you are in a relationship with a nice guy, as in a guy who has nice guy syndrome, you're going to have to put in the work, both of you. Nice guy syndrome is caused by complex childhood traumas that play out into ineffective strategies when it comes to relationships in adult life. He is going to have to undo a lot of conditioning and programming and change a lot of his beliefs in order to unleash his natural masculinity. This will not be a quick change. He's either going to have to work closely with someone like myself or be incredibly brave and resourceful and risk-taking in doing the work himself. What you can do as the partner, however, is create an environment that encourages these changes and that supports him in being a different man. You've got to make it easy for him, not hard. And this is where I'm going to challenge you as the partner, because I've worked with a lot of nice guy husbands, and their biggest barrier is actually having an environment at home that does not welcome an upgrade in masculinity, even when the wife appears to be asking for it. You must be part of the solution. Nice guys tend to get into relationships with their counterpart, their equal but opposite, like puzzle pieces. So while you're not the reason he has nice guy syndrome, you've got your shit too. And you have created an environment that enabled him and provoked him and encouraged him to continue being a people pleaser and to be a nice guy. You might not have felt like that's what you're doing, but the fact that you're still together means that you have somehow implicitly condoned this behavior, which means you either encouraged people pleasing and fawning and agreeableness, or just at least allowed it to happen, and or you discouraged masculinity, assertiveness, standing up to you, being honest with you. You made that difficult to do. You can't expect him to change if you put up resistance and barriers to those changes, if you make it difficult. It's hard enough. He's dealing with childhood demons and trauma. This is a very vulnerable, scary place for him to venture into. He needs support and love and safety at home to practice this stuff. And he needs to practice it with you more than anyone else. Because when it comes to nice guys, especially husbands and fathers, The worst of their nice guyness happens with the partnership. Okay, it happens with the woman that they care about the most. So he's going to have to practice this stuff on you, which might not be as pleasant as you expect it's going to be. So keep a simple formula in your head. Respect and encourage masculine behavior, even if it's, disagreeable to your ideas, and kind of punish or at least discourage people-pleasing, fawning, agreeable behavior that you know is fake, even if it makes you feel good. What is masculine behavior? Well, simple formula is, if you're in a nice guy relationship, it's all the stuff he's not doing. Confrontations, boundary setting, assertiveness, leadership and risk-taking, bravery, initiating, taking responsibility, being shameless about his emotions, what he wants and what he doesn't want. I'm sure you can imagine that these traits would not only be healthier for your relationship, but quite attractive as well. They might bring the spark back. But as I've alluded to, you've got to be careful what you wish for and how you handle it when it happens. You want him to be more assertive? Well, most of his confrontations are going to happen with you. You're probably the one he's been the most passive and most agreeable with, in a false sense. You're the one who's going to have to face his wrath when he finally stops pretending to like everything. You want him to take responsibility. You want him to lead and initiate. Well, you're going to have to tolerate him getting things wrong by your standards. You're going to have to delegate the work that you don't trust him with, right? You're going to have to let him lead by following, even if he gets it wrong. In fact, he's going to get it wrong because he never gets any practice. You want him to be more courageous. Well, that means he's going to have to do things that are less considerate of your feelings, things that maybe you don't prefer, things that maybe scare you and make you worried about his safety. Most of his cowardice is based on protecting your feelings, of trying to prevent you from being upset. So in his mind, being more brave means doing things that will upset you. And you're going to have to handle that if you want him to be a brave man. You want him to be more honest and share his feelings. Well, that means he's primarily going to say more things that you don't want to hear. Those things that you think he's hiding are probably things that he's quite accurately assessed you're going to react badly to, even though they are the truth. This is the reason he's not talking about these things already. He knows that you're going to be uncomfortable with them, or at least he suspects that you will be. He's as honest as he feels safe to be. So if you want him to be more honest, it needs to be more safe. You're the one he loves the most, but unfortunately this means you're the one he's the most afraid of. His confidence and sense of self-worth is based primarily on how well he acts as a husband, on how happy you are with him. And so if he's going to take these risks to become more masculine and upset you and so on, it's going to really shatter his whole paradigm about where his confidence comes from. It's going to be hard for him to do. He's going to feel like he's risking losing you. And he might actually be risking losing you, because you might be frustrated with how he is as a nice guy, but you have to be open and prepared for the possibility that the real him is something you don't like, or are disappointed by, or that you actually enjoy the people pleasing, and that you don't want someone who's going to confront you regularly and have his own way and want things to be done a certain way that you don't prefer. So you have to be open to this risk, because it's a real risk. As I said, nice guys choose their match. You both need to change simultaneously to save this relationship. You might not consciously do it, but somehow you reward people pleasing and somehow you punish masculinity. If this wasn't the case, he would have changed by now, because he wants to please you. If being masculine was pleasing to you, he'd be doing it. Okay, but he's obviously discovered that that's too scary. So you have to allow him to do things that you don't like, because they're actually better for your love for him and for the relationship in the long run. It all begins with an uncomfortable conversation. And yeah, you're going to have to be the one to initiate it. I know you're sick of doing this. But look at it this way. If this works out, you won't have to be the one that initiates all these conversations in the future. He'll start doing it. But you're going to have to do this one. Conversation needs to be a clear boundary setting exercise about what you want from him in terms of masculinity and in terms of integrity and authenticity. And most importantly, to make it very clear that you would like him to stop people-pleasing with you, that you want him to stop being whatever it is, falsely agreeable, hiding his emotions, caretaking and fixing and controlling things all the time. Whatever it is he does to try and keep you happy, you're going to tell him directly, stop doing that. It's making me lose my love for you. It will help if you admit that you have unwittingly encouraged this behavior. It will help if you say, look, I have probably made an environment here at home where it's easier to people please me than it is to be assertive, where you felt punished or scared of taking a stand and being masculine. And I'm going to work on making that safer for you while you work on bringing more of it up. He will probably unfairly blame you for being the way he is. He'll feel like he doesn't have a choice. So let's take that excuse away from him. Say, okay, maybe I was like that in the past, but from now on, you go ahead and be masculine. I'm going to do my best to reward that behavior. So before the conversation, take some time to think about how it is that you might enable the people pleasing. What's the path of least resistance when it comes to being in a relationship with you? Is it simply easier to people please you? And where do you punish masculinity? Those times that he has taken a stand or tried to initiate or do things his own way, how have you reacted to that? Was it an encouraging reaction or a discouraging reaction? Does he feel safe to be honest and assertive with you? Does he feel safe to take risks and call the shots? Or have you made that unsafe? As long as you're aware of that and you share with him this awareness to say, look, I'm going to do my part as long as you do yours, it's much more likely to happen. But you can't say this is all him, because all relationships are 50-50. We choose our match. We choose someone who's as healthy or unhealthy as we are. So you have to admit to yourself, you're not some perfect angel and he's the fuck up. You two are an equal match. You're 50-50. So you got to do your part if you want him to do his. But let's keep this practical. Here are some of the changes you can make to enable the changes that he's going to make. Here's some of the behaviors that enable people pleasing. So some of the stuff that you need to change or stop or limit. Being grateful when he does things for you that you could have done yourself and that maybe you should do yourself. So anytime he's caretaking or fixing and kind of controlling your life by doing things for you, that actually enables this people pleasing. Allowing him to give you advice and fix your emotions, treating him like a therapist when you really should be talking to your girlfriends about that stuff. Ignoring the fact that you mostly get your way all the time, that things are generally run the way you want them to run. Whether it's the way the house is set up or what you do on the weekends, notice that he doesn't actually have any space to lead because you filled up that space. And you believe him when he says that he doesn't mind, he doesn't care, he's cool with whatever, rather than challenging him to make a stand and to choose something, rather than choosing for him. And letting him sacrifice his needs to cater to yours. Like maybe he gave up on hobbies or he doesn't see his friends so much because that just makes life easier for you. And then there's also the behaviors that discourage masculinity. So these are the things that make him unsafe to tap into his masculine traits. Exploding, counterattacking, or just generally being very difficult to talk to when he tries to assert himself. Kind of already mentioned this, but taking the lead without giving him any space to make decisions for himself. Kind of always going first and not pushing him to make a choice for the lot of you. Criticizing him making attempts to do things his own way just because they don't meet your preferences or approval and they're not the way you prefer things to be done. Always being the one who initiates sex in the bedroom. Complaining anytime he puts his own needs before yours. Hiring other men to do handy jobs around the house without asking him to have a crack at it first. These are all just some examples, some of which will apply to you personally and some that won't. But it might give you an idea of why he doesn't feel so encouraged to step up and why people-pleasing is just the easiest way out for him. This isn't blaming you. It's more like making you aware that you're living with a drug addict and that you may have accidentally been engaging in behaviors that enable his addiction. So it's time to stop those behaviors for his best interests. And now it's his turn. So you're going to change those behaviors to make it as safe as possible to be masculine and as difficult as possible to be a people pleaser. That's the best thing you can do for him. An environment where he's rewarded for those masculine traits like honesty and leadership and assertiveness and responsibility. And he's dismissed or rejected for people pleasing and fawning and controlling that comes with nice guy syndrome. So after you've set the tone with that initial conversation, here are some things you can do to basically force him to either step up or get out. Book him in to see me or someone like me. Okay, there are a few nice guy specialist coaches out there now, and he's going to need some sort of support with this. And he might feel better talking about it with someone who understands than with his partner. Force him to make important decisions that affect the whole family and refuse to make those decisions yourself. Like make him decide what you guys are doing this weekend for the whole weekend. Make him decide what you're having for dinner. All these decisions that you would usually just grab for yourself, put him in a position where he has to make the call and you just stand by passively and wait for him to do so. And of course, you reward him for doing so, even if you don't like the decision as much as your own decision. Work with him to create time out during the week that's just for him and his needs. Hobbies, time with the boys, whatever it is that he's been neglecting to people please you. Start pushing back and making him take care of himself and be a bit more self-centered. Make him be creative about ideas. Like he has to decide what you guys are going to buy someone for their birthday, or he gets to call what's going to happen in the bedroom tonight. And just don't do it for him, but encourage him to do it himself and follow, even if you think it's going to be a disaster. Call him out really boldly and make him stop anytime you see the kind of behaviors that you want him to stop doing. Like you're flashing a red light whenever he does it. So that might include any kind of people pleasing, unsolicited advice. He's trying to fix you. When you see him tolerating bad treatment for others, like he won't send back the food at the restaurant. Refusing to identify his preferences in a situation, like demand that he makes a call. Holding in resentments when you see him sulking and so on, call him out and make him talk about it. Put him in a situation where he doesn't get away with it anymore. Ask him what he wants to happen in the bedroom and make sex at least 50% about his pleasure and not just your own. It's quite common for nice guy relationships for the sex to either be a disaster or to be very focused on the woman's pleasure and the guy is secondary, and you don't even know it's secondary. You think he's enjoying himself, but it's actually more like hard work. He's just completing the mission. So ask him what he wants and make it about him a little bit more, if this applies to you. Encourage him to attempt brave new tasks, especially manly type stuff. Like one time my wife bought a new door handle and just said, you install it. And I've never done a door handle before. She did the same thing with a kitchen mixer. I'd never done plumbing before. She just put me in this position like, you're the man in the house, do the man shit. And it made me step up. I mean, I relied quite heavily on YouTube tutorials, but I got the fucking thing done and I felt really good about myself afterwards. And no matter how well it goes when he attempts these things, recognize him for the sexiness of having made the attempt, right? So even if it's a disaster, just say, I like it when you step up as a man like this. And he'll do it more and he'll get better at it. Stop criticizing him. Just fucking stop. Okay, just stop it. There's no benefit to a relationship in criticism. None. It's just judgment. Stop fucking doing it. Tell him what you want directly rather than playing coy and hoping that he'll guess. Okay? Treat him like he just doesn't know. He'll never know unless you tell him. At least that way you'll know whether his resistance to do what you want and be the guy you want is a misunderstanding or actual, refusal to cooperate. Basically, treat him like he's autistic, because he may well be, and just make it easy for him to do the right thing. Worst case scenario, if you've already tried all this kind of stuff and he's already, you've gone to the edge of your responsibility in this and he's just not moving, he's either making promises and breaking them, or he's resistant to change or whatever, it's time to break up. This may only be a temporary breakup, but he needs the shock treatment, the crisis of losing you. He needs to see that this is real, that he has actually lost you from being a nice guy. Because every time you stay with him, you're condoning the behavior, even if you complain about it 24/7. He'll see, well, I haven't lost her, so why would I change? Give him a reason to change. The sad fact is many of these guys will not feel inspired to make the changes necessary until they see that they've actually lost you. And you have to take the risk that you might not get back together. But the fact is, if his nice guy stuff is bothering you this much, a breakup is inevitable. At least if you do it earlier rather than by the time you've completely lost love for him, you guys have a chance of reconciling. If you just allow the breakup to come to you, you guys will never recover from that, I promise you. For more information and support, please get in touch, dan@brojo.org. I can just give you advice, or we can get full-on coaching going, and we can save this marriage maybe. Who knows?